Stick with me as I continue Olivia's story. After that humiliating day at school, she felt lost and unsure who she could trust. Her parents didn't apologize or even seem to care. They went on with their lives as if nothing had happened, leaving Olivia to face the consequences of their neglect. At first, she felt angry and betrayed, but slowly she realized that anger could be turned into strength. She knew she had to take control of her own life. School became a challenge, but Olivia refused to let it break her. Classmates whispered and pointed, some still believing her parents' lies. It hurt deeply, but she learned to focus on her goals instead of their judgments. Every humiliating moment fueled her determination to succeed and prove her worth. Olivia began spending extra hours studying, pushing herself harder than ever before. Outside of school, she started working small jobs to save money for her future. Babysitting, tutoring younger kids, even helping neighbors with chores, she did everything honestly and diligently. Every dollar she earned was a small step toward independence and freedom from her parents' careless behavior. She also learned the value of planning. Olivia kept a small journal where she recorded incidents of neglect and lies, not for revenge yet, but as a way to remember the truth and hold on to her power. Friendship became a rare comfort. Her best friend, Mia, stayed by her side, offering support when Olivia felt like giving up. Mia reminded her that she was not defined by her parents' failures, and that helped Olivia see a path forward. Slowly, Olivia realized she didn't need anyone to fix her life, she could build it herself. As months passed, Olivia's hard work started paying off. Her grades improved, she earned praise from teachers, and even some classmates began to respect her determination. The same people who had laughed at her before could not ignore her growing confidence and accomplishments. Olivia felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that she was stronger than the people who had tried to bring her down. Inside, Olivia also began planning a more direct way to hold her parents accountable. She wanted them to understand that neglect and lies have consequences. Not through anger or yelling, but by showing them she could succeed without their help, and that they could no longer control her life. She imagined the moment when they would see the woman she would become, independent, strong, and respected by others. Every step Olivia took reminded her that betrayal could be transformed into motivation. Instead of dwelling on pain, she learned to focus on opportunities. With each achievement, she reclaimed a little more power, proving to herself and everyone around her that neglect would never define her future. She started to dream bigger, work harder, and believe that one day, her parents' carelessness would no longer matter at all. By the time Olivia reached the next school year, she was already different, confident, focused, and ready to face any challenge. She had discovered that strength doesn't come from others, it comes from within, from refusing to be broken by those who fail you, and from turning betrayal into a stepping stone towards success. After her parents lied about her skipping school, Olivia felt completely isolated. Teachers questioned her honesty, and classmates began giving her strange looks. Rumors spread quickly, and some students even laughed behind her back. It was painful to see people she had trusted start to doubt her. The community, which she had always felt part of, suddenly seemed cold and judgmental. Mia stayed by her side, but even her comforting words couldn't erase the embarrassment and disappointment Olivia felt. It was hard to accept that the people who were supposed to protect her were the ones spreading lies. Olivia realized that if she didn't stand up for herself, no one else would. Determined not to let the betrayal define her, Olivia started paying closer attention to her surroundings. She noticed which teachers were fair and which ones might believe her parents' story. She learned to be careful with classmates who whispered rumors, but she didn't let it stop her from trying to make genuine connections with those who treated her kindly. At home, things didn't improve. Her parents continued pretending that nothing had happened. Mark and Diane never admitted their mistake, and their indifference hurt even more than the initial abandonment. Olivia began keeping a distance from them, spending more time outside the house, at the library, or at Mia's place. She focused on controlling what she could, her own actions, her studies, and her friendships. Olivia also started thinking about long-term plans. She wanted to prove to herself and to everyone else that she was capable of more than they imagined. She kept a small notebook where she wrote down her goals, ideas for earning money, and ways to improve herself. Each entry reminded her that she didn't need validation from her parents or from the community. School became a place of quiet observation. Olivia watched how people treated each other and learned who could be trusted. She discovered that some classmates who once mocked others were insecure themselves. Recognizing this gave her confidence that she wasn't the problem, her parents' lies had made her the target. Slowly, Olivia began acting differently. She spoke with more confidence in class, completed assignments meticulously, and avoided situations that would give others a chance to criticize her. Her small successes built her inner strength. Every time someone doubted her or whispered behind her back, she reminded herself of the vow she had made: she would never allow anyone to make her feel worthless. By the end of the semester, Olivia's quiet determination was starting to show results. Teachers began noticing her effort and honesty. A few classmates who had spread rumors now looked at her with respect, though she didn't seek their approval. Olivia realized that the best way to respond to betrayal was not with anger alone, but with action, proving through persistence and resilience that she was stronger than anyone could imagine. Her resolve was clear: she would rise above the lies, reclaim her dignity, and eventually hold those who betrayed her accountable, not through revenge yet, but through unstoppable personal growth and determination. After the rumor spread, Olivia's days at school became unbearable. Classmates would make jokes when she walked by, whisper behind her back, and sometimes even trip her in the hallways. Every glance felt like a reminder of how her parents had let her down and how easily people believed lies about her. Even friends who didn't know the full story treated her differently. The humiliation seemed endless. Instead of breaking, Olivia decided to fight back in a smart way. She started keeping track of everything that happened. She saved text messages from classmates, wrote down incidents in her notebook, and even made note of teachers' comments when they doubted her. She knew that if she ever needed to prove the truth, having records would be her strongest tool. Olivia understood that knowledge could be more powerful than anger, and this would be her first step toward reclaiming control. At lunch, where bullying was worst, she began to observe her classmates carefully. She learned who was spreading the rumors and who just followed along without thinking. She realized that some people bullied because they felt insecure themselves. This didn't make it easier, but it helped her plan her next steps carefully. Olivia started thinking strategically. She wouldn't respond impulsively. Instead, she would collect evidence, stay focused on her goals, and wait for the right moment to turn the tables. Outside of school, Olivia's life wasn't any easier. Her parents continued to ignore her struggles, refusing to acknowledge their mistake. But she refused to let their indifference define her. Every moment of humiliation became fuel for her determination. She reminded herself daily that she was capable of more than the people who doubted her believed. Her focus shifted from wanting sympathy to wanting results, proof that she could rise above the lies and bullying. Mia remained a small comfort, listening to Olivia's frustrations and helping her feel less alone. But Olivia knew she couldn't rely solely on friendship. She needed to be self-reliant. She spent hours after school planning, thinking about her studies, and imagining a future where she would be in control of her life. The notebook of incidents she kept was more than a record, it was a symbol of her resolve and her future strategy. Slowly, Olivia started to act with quiet confidence. She stopped reacting to teasing openly, and instead focused on her work. Teachers began noticing her diligence, and a few classmates began to respect her perseverance. Even though the bullying didn't stop immediately, Olivia felt a growing sense of inner strength. She realized that she didn't need everyone to believe her, she just needed proof, patience, and persistence. By the end of the semester, Olivia had built a clear plan in her mind. She knew exactly how she would use her collected evidence and hard work to protect herself and hold people accountable in the future. The humiliation she faced became a tool, teaching her strategy, patience, and the power of preparation. She was learning that revenge didn't have to be loud, it could be smart, steady, and unstoppable. Her path was clear: endure now, gather proof, and one day, show everyone that she was stronger than anyone had ever imagined. One afternoon, Mr. Reynolds, Olivia's history teacher, asked to speak with her after class. He had noticed the sadness in her eyes and the way she seemed withdrawn. He didn't scold or judge her, he simply said he believed in her and encouraged her to enter a school-wide academic competition that offered a large scholarship. At first, Olivia hesitated. She was afraid of failing in front of people who had already humiliated her, but a small spark inside told her this might be her chance to change how everyone saw her. She decided to take it seriously. Olivia set a strict schedule, dividing her time between studying, practicing, and preparing her presentation. Every night, she stayed up late, reviewing notes, writing drafts, and practicing in front of a mirror. She poured all the frustration and anger she had felt from her parents' neglect and the bullying into her work. Each page she wrote, each speech she practiced, made her feel more confident and focused. Even outside school, Olivia used her time wisely. She went to the library instead of wandering aimlessly and researched topics related to the competition. She asked Mia to help quiz her and give feedback, turning every practice session into an opportunity to grow stronger. Slowly, she began to see her own potential. The humiliation and betrayal she had faced were still there, but they were no longer controlling her actions. The competition became a goal she could focus on entirely, something that belonged to her and no one else. For the first time in months, Olivia felt a sense of purpose. She imagined herself standing on stage, presenting her work with pride, proving to everyone, including her parents, that she was capable of achieving something great. The thought motivated her to keep going even when she felt exhausted or discouraged. During this time, Olivia also noticed small changes in her attitude. She walked taller, spoke more confidently in class, and stopped caring as much about the whispers of others. Her effort and determination began to shine, and a few teachers and classmates started noticing the change. These small signs of support gave her even more energy to push forward. Olivia's preparation was not just about winning a scholarship, it was about proving to herself that she could rise above the humiliation and betrayal she had endured. Every late night of studying and every extra hour of practice became a statement of her strength. She began to understand that the best revenge wouldn't come from confrontation or anger, it would come from achieving something meaningful despite the people who doubted her. By the time the competition approached, Olivia felt ready. The months of hard work had built not only her knowledge but also her self-confidence. She knew that whether she won or lost, she had already grown stronger than before. The encouragement from Mr. Reynolds had given her the first glimmer of hope, showing her that support could come from unexpected places, and that belief in herself could overcome even the deepest betrayal. With determination and focus, Olivia prepared to step into the spotlight and prove that she was more than the mistakes and neglect of her parents. This competition was her chance to show the world her strength, resilience, and intelligence. While Olivia was working hard to prepare for the competition, her parents stayed busy with their comfortable routines. Mark spent his evenings watching sports or meeting friends, and Diane focused on social events and shopping. Neither of them asked about Olivia's schoolwork or her progress. They didn't notice her late nights of studying or the awards she began earning from smaller competitions. Their neglect became clearer to her with every passing day. Instead of letting their indifference hurt her again, Olivia used it as a reason to take her first steps toward protecting herself. She continued tutoring younger students after school and doing small jobs around the neighborhood. Each time she earned a little money, she put some aside. She wasn't saving for clothes or outings like other kids her age, she was saving for her future and for the plan forming quietly in her mind. With the same careful focus she used to prepare for the scholarship competition, Olivia began collecting real proof of her parents' neglect. She kept records of times they failed to pick her up, notes from teachers about their absence during parent meetings, and even screenshots of Diane's social posts that showed she was out enjoying herself during times she claimed to be busy with Olivia. Everything she gathered helped her see the full picture of how her parents acted behind closed doors and in front of the community. Olivia also discovered signs of financial dishonesty. She saw statements that showed money meant for her college fund being used for vacations and expensive dinners. She quietly copied receipts, took photos of documents, and stored them safely. She didn't show her anger on the outside, she remained calm, focused, and deliberate, knowing patience would give her the upper hand. The more she uncovered, the more determined she became. Her parents had always cared about their image. They loved looking like the perfect, responsible family in front of neighbors and friends. Olivia realized that exposing the truth, at the right time and in the right way, would shake the world they had built for themselves. She didn't want a loud confrontation. She wanted justice. She wanted them to understand what their lies and neglect had done to her. Most of all, she wanted them to feel the consequences of their actions just as deeply as she had felt the humiliation they caused. Every small message she saved and every receipt she copied became part of a bigger plan forming in her mind. She wasn't acting out of childish anger, she was acting with purpose. Olivia knew that her revenge wouldn't come from shouting or blaming. It would come from revealing the truth they worked so hard to hide. By the time she had gathered enough evidence, she felt a new kind of strength. Her parents still had no idea. To them, she was just their quiet daughter who spent time studying or working odd jobs. They didn't see the determination behind her silence or the plan she was building step by step. Olivia knew she wasn't ready to act yet. But when the moment came, she wanted it to be powerful enough to make them regret every lie, every excuse, and every moment they made her feel invisible. It was a Friday evening when Olivia's parents invited her to dinner, expecting to show off their wealth and superiority. Mark bragged about his new car, and Diane displayed stories from their latest expensive trips. Then, with a mocking tone, they criticized Olivia for still working part-time jobs and saving money instead of relying on them. They laughed, thinking it would embarrass her as usual. But Olivia had been ready for this moment. She calmly opened her laptop and projected the financial records she had collected. The documents clearly showed how money that was supposed to go toward her education and future had been spent on unnecessary luxuries and social events. Every dollar was accounted for, every receipt matched. The room went silent. Mark and Diane's faces turned pale. They had always hidden these details, confident no one would ever notice. Olivia didn't yell or argue, she presented the facts simply, letting the evidence speak for itself. The quiet authority in her voice made it clear she was no longer the helpless child they once mocked. Neighbors and family friends who had been invited to the dinner stared in shock. Some whispered to each other, others simply stared. Diane tried to laugh it off, calling the records misunderstandings, while Mark stammered, searching for words. But the proof was undeniable. The years of lies and neglect were exposed in front of everyone who mattered. Olivia felt a strange mixture of relief and satisfaction. She hadn't needed to shout or fight. She had simply shown the truth. For the first time, her parents experienced the embarrassment and discomfort they had caused her countless times. Their carefully maintained image of perfection was crumbling in silence, and Olivia felt the first real taste of justice. Even though the shock was evident, Olivia didn't stop there. She calmly explained how their neglect had affected her life, how being left at school, ignored, and lied about had shaped her experiences. She didn't accuse them in anger, she spoke with clarity, showing that she had grown stronger because of the challenges they caused. By the end of the dinner, it was clear that the balance of power had shifted. Olivia was no longer the dependent child, she was a young woman who had taken control of her life and revealed the truth with precision. Her parents' laughter had turned into silence, their pride replaced with discomfort. This event marked the beginning of a bigger change. Olivia realized that calculated action and careful planning could bring results far more powerful than shouting or complaining. She had used their own neglect and greed against them in a way that was undeniable and public. From that night forward, Olivia's parents treated her differently, not with respect, but with caution. They understood, even if they didn't admit it, that she was no longer under their control. Olivia felt a quiet confidence that she had never known before. She had taken the first real step in her journey of revenge, showing that betrayal can backfire when someone is patient, determined, and strategic. Her victory that night wasn't loud or dramatic, but it was absolute. Olivia knew that this was just the beginning, and she was ready for the next steps in reclaiming her life and proving her independence. After the dinner, Olivia realized she had more power than she had ever imagined. She decided to take her evidence beyond her family and show the truth to people who mattered. She carefully prepared a report for the school board, including all the documents and records she had collected over the months. She wrote a clear account of her parents' neglect, their lies, and the favoritism that had affected her education and daily life. The day she presented her report to the board, Olivia felt nervous but determined. She spoke calmly and confidently, letting the facts speak for themselves. She explained how she had been left at school, how teachers and classmates had doubted her because of her parents' lies, and how her parents misused funds meant for her future. Everyone listened intently, some shaking their heads in disbelief, while others took notes. News of Olivia's report spread quickly through the community. People who had once whispered behind her back or judged her now began to see her differently. Neighbors, friends of her parents, and even some classmates approached her privately, expressing their support. They apologized for believing the false stories and admired her courage to speak up. For the first time, Olivia felt that the truth was on her side and that she was no longer alone. Her parents, on the other hand, were shocked and embarrassed. The school board questioned them in front of others, and for the first time in years, Mark and Diane felt public shame. Their carefully built image of wealth, success, and responsibility was crumbling. People who once admired them now doubted their character. Olivia watched quietly, knowing that the justice she had worked for was finally happening. Even with the community now supporting her, Olivia didn't let pride or anger control her actions. She continued to focus on her goals and studies, showing that her strength wasn't just in exposing her parents but in building her own life. She knew that real control came not from making others feel guilty, but from demonstrating her independence and resilience. Slowly, Olivia began to feel a sense of freedom she had never experienced. Her parents could no longer make decisions for her, and the community now saw her as capable, responsible, and strong. She started taking more initiative at school, volunteering for leadership roles, and helping other students who might be struggling. Her voice began to carry weight, and people listened because she had proven herself through both courage and intelligence. This experience taught Olivia an important lesson: control comes from preparation, patience, and smart action. She had used the evidence she had carefully collected to not only reveal the truth but also to gain respect and support from the community. Her parents' neglect had unintentionally created the opportunity for her to shine. Olivia's journey of taking control didn't end with exposing her parents. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she led her own life, made her own decisions, and earned respect through her actions. She had turned betrayal into power and humiliation into influence, proving that strength comes from standing up for oneself and never letting anyone else define your worth. After gaining the support of the school and community, Olivia knew it was time for a private confrontation with her parents. She asked Mark and Diane to meet her in the living room one evening. The atmosphere was tense, but Olivia stayed calm, determined to speak clearly and directly. She didn't yell or argue, she let her words carry the weight of truth. "Mom, Dad," she began, "I need you to understand what your neglect has done to me. Being left at school, being lied about, and having people doubt me, it hasn't just hurt me. It has hurt my friends, my reputation, and my ability to trust anyone. You have no idea how much pain you caused." Mark and Diane exchanged nervous glances. For the first time, they saw Olivia not as a child to control, but as a young woman who had grown strong in spite of them. Diane tried to interrupt, saying it wasn't that serious, but Olivia raised a hand calmly. "Please listen. I'm done being ignored, lied to, and belittled. I am going to live my life independently, and I am proud of what I have accomplished without your help." Olivia then addressed financial matters. She explained that the money meant for her future had been misused and demanded accountability. She told them she would take full control over her own finances and future decisions. "From now on," she said, "I am making my own choices. You will no longer control my life or pretend to protect me when you are absent or careless." Her parents tried to protest, but Olivia remained firm. She wasn't seeking their permission or forgiveness, she was asserting her independence. Every word she spoke reminded them of the opportunities they had wasted and the trust they had broken. For the first time, Mark and Diane realized that their careless actions had real consequences. The child they had ignored was no longer dependent or submissive, she had grown into a confident, determined young woman. Olivia's calm but firm approach struck them harder than anger ever could. They couldn't argue against the evidence, the community support, or the strength she now displayed. Diane looked down, realizing that all the social appearances she had valued meant nothing compared to the damage done to her daughter. Mark clenched his fists quietly, understanding that he had lost control and that Olivia had taken her life into her own hands. This confrontation wasn't about humiliation, it was about setting boundaries and reclaiming her power. Olivia showed them that betrayal and neglect would no longer dictate her life. She was in charge of her choices, her finances, and her future. By the end of the conversation, Olivia felt a deep sense of closure. Her parents, for the first time, understood the weight of what they had lost, not just as parents, but as figures of influence in her life. Olivia didn't need revenge in the form of anger or punishment, her independence and confidence were the ultimate statement. That evening marked a turning point. Olivia had confronted the people who had failed her, demanded accountability, and established her own rules. She had taken control emotionally and practically, proving that the strongest revenge is living well, proudly, and on your own terms. After confronting her parents, Olivia focused on building her life on her own terms. She used the scholarship she had won from the school competition to cover her tuition and other expenses. The money she had saved from tutoring and small jobs gave her additional freedom. For the first time, she felt fully independent, knowing she didn't have to rely on her parents for anything. At school, Olivia's confidence grew. She spoke up in class, helped other students, and took leadership roles in clubs and projects. Teachers who once doubted her now praised her dedication and intelligence. Some classmates who had teased her now respected her perseverance and determination. Every achievement, no matter how small, felt like proof that she could succeed despite the setbacks her parents had caused. Outside of school, Olivia continued to work responsibly, managing her own finances carefully. She learned how to budget, save, and plan for the future. Each decision she made reinforced the sense of independence she had fought so hard to claim. With every dollar she earned and every goal she achieved, she felt stronger and more in control of her life. Her friendships became stronger too. Mia remained her closest confidant, supporting her through challenges and celebrating her victories. Olivia also formed new connections with people who shared her drive and values. She realized that surrounding herself with positive, supportive people was one of the most important steps in creating a life free from the influence of those who had hurt her. Olivia also began thinking about her long-term goals. She focused on college, career opportunities, and personal growth. She wanted to prove to herself, more than anyone else, that her past would not define her future. Every class she aced, every project she completed, and every new skill she learned became a building block in the life she was designing for herself. Her parents' attempts to manipulate her no longer worked. They could not control her decisions, her money, or her social standing. Olivia had turned the pain of betrayal into motivation, using it as a ladder to climb higher. Instead of letting their neglect hold her back, she had used it to push herself forward. Each day, Olivia grew more confident in her independence. She no longer felt powerless or ashamed. The humiliation, lies, and neglect of the past had been transformed into resilience, wisdom, and self-respect. She felt a deep sense of pride knowing that she had built this life with her own effort, determination, and intelligence. By the time the school year progressed, Olivia's life was unrecognizable from the one she had endured months before. She had earned respect, financial stability, and a sense of freedom that her parents could never take away. Olivia had proven that betrayal and neglect could be transformed into strength, and that true independence comes from taking control of one's life and refusing to let anyone else define your worth. Her journey showed that with patience, courage, and persistence, it is possible to rise above betrayal and create a life filled with dignity, respect, and self-worth. Olivia had not just survived, she had thrived. Olivia wanted everyone to understand what she had learned from her journey. She spoke openly to her friends, classmates, and the community about how neglect and betrayal could affect a person. Never let someone else's neglect or betrayal define your future, she said. Even if the people who should protect you fail, your strength and resilience can rewrite your story. These words were not just advice, they were the truth she had lived. She explained how being left at school, lied about, and ignored by her parents had been painful, but it had also pushed her to grow stronger. Each challenge became an opportunity to prove herself, to work harder, and to think carefully about her own life. She told others that pain could become power if it was used wisely, and that every setback could be turned into a step forward. Olivia also shared how planning and patience had played a key role. She had carefully collected evidence of her parents' neglect and lies, but she had waited for the right time to act. That preparation had allowed her to speak with authority, to gain support from teachers and the community, and to create real change in her life. She emphasized that revenge didn't have to be loud or cruel, it could be quiet, calculated, and meaningful. By taking control of her own life, she had shown that the people who tried to hold her back could no longer influence her decisions. Her parents were forced to watch from a distance. Mark and Diane could no longer manipulate her, control her finances, or affect her choices. The power they once held over her was gone. Olivia had turned the betrayal they caused into motivation for growth, independence, and personal success. She didn't need their approval or recognition. Their absence, their lies, and their neglect had become fuel for her achievements. Olivia also reminded others that support could come from unexpected places. Teachers like Mr. Reynolds and friends like Mia had made a big difference by believing in her and encouraging her to reach her potential. She encouraged viewers to seek out people who genuinely cared and to rely on themselves when necessary. Building a life of independence required hard work, focus, and the courage to step forward even when others had failed. Looking back, Olivia realized that the pain she had endured had taught her more than comfort ever could. It had taught her resilience, careful thinking, patience, and the value of taking control of her own life. She had learned that betrayal, when faced with determination and intelligence, could be transformed into a source of strength. Her story ended with a sense of peace and accomplishment. Olivia had proven that no one could define her worth except herself. She had turned humiliation into respect, neglect into motivation, and lies into a path toward independence. By standing strong, she had rewritten her story and shown that even the deepest betrayal could become a foundation for growth, revenge, and unstoppable personal power. Olivia's final message was clear: setbacks, betrayal, and neglect do not have to destroy a person. With patience, strategy, and self-belief, anyone can rise above their circumstances and create a life filled with strength, freedom, and dignity.